It's Simon here. Welcome back to the Hermit's Cave. So it's that time of year again. Seems to come around quicker every year. Usually when we get towards the end of a year, I look back over the previous 12 months and take a look at some of the decks that were released during that time and then try, and it's always an impossible task, or seems an impossible task, to order my 5 favourite decks from those last 12 months. So with that in mind, here's my top 5 2020 tarot decks. So it's always a really difficult task, and I think that applies to any top 5, top 10. And you know, I've done a few. I've done my top 10 favorite RWS decks. I've done top 5 in the past, you know, top 5 decks you can't live without. I've done my top 10 all-time favorites. And there's always some decks that you kind of keep putting into the mix and taking out because you see something else. And it's always difficult. But I have been through probably 12 decks that I've really loved that have been released during 2020. And I've narrowed it down to 5. And then I think I'll give 5 honourable mentions as well at the end. And that doesn't mean that if there are other decks that's been released that I haven't appreciated them, because of course I have, because I've bought them or I've received them because I've wanted to receive them during this year. So they've all been really kind of special and helped me through my practice during 2020, which, let's face it, 2020 has been a very tough and challenging year. And for those of us who love the tarot and love working with the tarot, for me personally, never before in my life has the tarot brought me so much comfort and guidance and given me that sense of purpose and direction through what has been an unprecedented year. So I'm going to do them in chronological order in terms of when they was released throughout the year, and an honourable mention or two in January, the Groovy Weight, which I really enjoyed, by Tarot Collectibles, and also the Spacious Tarot, which is strange that I've not put it in my top 5 for this year because it is in my top 10 all-time favourite decks. But I just wanted to mention them also. But the first one that I'm going to mention, and I've got this lovely little pouch for it that Anne made, who's a member of the Hermit's Cave, and she gifted me this. But this is the Shadowland Tarot by Monica Budersky. Love this, so much so I had to go out and get a backup copy. So this copy here that you see in the box hasn't even been taken out of its little band, because it's a backup spare copy. Wonderful, wonderful book, beautifully written. I absolutely, you know, in terms of companion books, guidebooks, as far as they go, this is right up there as one of the best. It's written humorously. It's a very inclusive deck. But what I love about this deck in particular is the fantastic artwork. It is just wonderful. The cardstock is lovely. This is by Red Feather, which is an arm of Schiffer. Look at the backs. And I've been aware of Monica's work for a while because, you know, I've got one of her little Lenormand decks, which I love. But the characters in this are so playful. It's great for, I mean, it's a Shadowlands deck and people have talked about using it for shadow work. It's great for inner child work as well, but it's a good all-round deck. The artwork is very unusual, but it's wonderful and it's so inclusive. In the book, very often use gender neutral pronouns and talk about people non-binary genders, which is just wonderful. But you know, it's inclusive because the characters within this deck are, you know, they're creatures, some are kind of like demons. A lot of people think it's a little bit macabre. I don't. I really love working with it. Cardstock is phenomenal. It's beautiful gilding. For mass market, I think it's one of the nicest decks in terms of the quality of the deck that is out there. It almost has the same sort of quality as well, it does actually. It does have the same sort of quality as an independently produced deck. If you was backing an independent creator and they released a tarot deck of this quality, you wouldn't be disappointed at all. But I find that the art is very evocative. It stirs up quite a lot within me, and that's what I love about a good tarot deck, where it really kind of moves you. I love this depiction of the Five of Pentacles. It's one of my favorite cards within the deck. It is just wonderful. Talk about, you know, this is Sasquatch, but on the outside looking in, there's this little family around a campfire enjoying, and he's just looking on, you know, from a distance. Whereas we're used to seeing the glow from the kind of church window in the traditional RWS, we've got this glow and warmth of the sort of the campfire, the area here, and somebody outside looking on. So yeah, that is my first one, which is the Shadowlands Tarot, and that was released in April of this year. It feels like it's been out for such a long time, but that's because I worked with it such a lot that it's very familiar to me now, and it's like an old friend. So Shadowlands Tarot. Then in June we had the Neo Rider collection. So I'm not going to cheat and say all four, but they are all wonderful, and it's 4 iterations of the RWS Tarot. We have like the Love Edition, the Shadow Edition, the Antique, and the Royal. I really do like, just to give this one a bit of an honorary mention, because this one got overlooked really. This is the Royal, and it's beautiful. The colours in this deck are lovely. The yellows have been muted down to like a mustard colour, but look at the colours of the sky. The card stock is wonderful, and it's a beautiful version. They feel great to handle as well. Lovely gilding, beautiful backs. But I think the one that stands out for me out of all of these is the Shadow deck. And when I first went to back this campaign on Kickstarter, I originally just backed this, and then I guess FOMO kicked in and I ended up getting all of them. But I don't regret it because they're wonderful to have in the collection. The downside to these cards is that they're really slippery, and they're hard to shuffle without them going everywhere. That's the title card. Let's take that out. These are plastic, so they are thin, but they're really durable. And if you're a riffle shuffler, then it's a dream, because they just bounce back into shape. The backs are beautiful, as they are on all decks, but you can just see these kind of metallic colours, and they come alive. They're just so beautiful, and it's such an amazing version of the RWS. I don't use it as much as I should. I really should use it more. I love this kind of purple background that Ivy uses in this, and I think the reason why I don't use it so much is just because they are so slippery, but it's amazing. And as an RWS lover and a tarot collector, this is one that I just had to have in the collection. So yes, the Neo Rider tarots are all 4 of them are incredible, and all in their own way extremely unique and a valuable part of my RWS collection. But if I had to choose one, it would be the Shadow deck. And they came out in June, if I didn't mention that already, but I think I did. Also out in June is the Shimmering Veil Tarot by Cilla Conway. Now this is the second edition, which I think came around August, September time. And how amazing to get two versions out in the space of a few months. But there's very little difference other than, you know, the extra bits like the gilding. But this deck is incredible. This version is kind of the one I keep for best. That's why it's still in order, because I've been using the ungilded one. And this is again like a backup copy. And Cilla sent me this, which was really, really sweet of her, as well as the Hermit print. But just look at the artwork in this deck. This is the Hermit, and I've got a large print of this hanging on my wall above my sacred space, which I'll treasure always. And I first became aware of Cilla's work through Day Words of Creation, which is an oracle deck which I absolutely adore. But this deck in particular, and I said before when I've done walkthroughs, it just feels like it's from another dimension. It feels, look at this. Isn't this incredible? Just love it. So this is our death card. And here's our devil. It feels channeled, and having spoken to Cilla quite a lot and how she works with the energies, it just comes through in the deck, and you can actually see like the brush strokes of the paint. It's just incredible. And this is the Golden Fool. So we have two Fool cards. We have our Fool at the beginning of the journey, which is almost like a blank canvas, and then we have the Golden Fool, who has journeyed through the major arcana and received the world. So yeah, and then we work with elements. As you can see here, we have a cloud for air, pentacles, and then we have fire, fiery cards, which, the artwork just sings to my soul. Just beautiful. Look at that. For our King of Wands. And then we have our watery cups. You see the water symbol here. So I love that this doesn't detract from the artwork. You get these, and it's a lovely size card. You get these beautiful paintings, and then just the little reference point in the bottom right hand corner of the number and the suit, which means you can really just sink into these beautiful images. Look at that. Beautiful matte cardstock as well, really good quality cards. I adore this deck. Possibly my favourite deck card, my favourite deck of the whole year. Just wonderful. And this is one, as I say, that I haven't used. It's my spare backup copy, but it's sublime. So that's the Shimmering Veil Tarot by Cilla Conway. Let's just have a sup of coffee. Okay, oops. So next on my list, which was a deck that was released in October, so quite recently, just a couple of months ago, is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. Love this. Again, these are the same size cards as the deck I've just shown in the Shimmering Veil. This was a mass market deck. It was released by Hay House. Artwork is absolutely beautiful. It comes in a set here, and you get, there's a little bit of a crease there, I haven't just noticed that. You get this book, which doesn't have an awful amount of text in there, but what it does have is enough. You get the wisdom, you get the essence, which is your keywords, you get counsel, and you get magic. And it is just wonderful. There's no images really in this, it is text. But Danielle, I should say, Barlow, I've got her green wheel, I think it's green wheel, is that what it's called? Living wheel, green wheel, oracle deck, and I love her as an artist, so I had to get this. I've gifted this to a couple of people as well, because, or done exchanges for it, because it's just beautiful. It's very pagan, it's very earth centric, it's diverse. Oh, the goddesses in it are incredible as well. And even though it's a witch's wisdom, I'm really pleased that there is a representation of male witches in this deck too. Because very often when decks talk about witches in particular, it's very female centric. I don't have an issue with that necessarily, but you know, we have to recognise that witchcraft is performed by males as well. This deck does change the system in terms of the majors, so it starts with the World and finishes with the Seeker, the Fool. Or I should say, actually, correction, it finishes with the Magus, the Magician, and the Seeker is still there, you know, 0. So, and then it works with the elements. So rather than swords, we have air. Rather than wands, we have fire, etc. But it is absolutely wonderful, and I've really enjoyed working with this over the last couple of months. And it came right at the end of October actually, so I've only really been working with it for about 6 weeks. But we reviewed this on the Tarot Times channel as well, myself, Becca and Elle, and we all loved it. So yeah, Witch's Wisdom. Also, to give honourable mentions from around that time frame, Oak, Ash and Thorn came out in October, and I'm really enjoying that deck. The Heaven and Earth Tarot, enjoying that one too. And then one that I did forget to mention is Pam's Delight, and I'm going to show Pam's Delight because it's not a very well-known deck. It will be coming out again next year because there was only 30 copies made, but it's by Real at My Lucky Card, and it's an RWS deck but with these beautiful kind of antique looking but very vibrant colours, and it's absolutely lovely. Cardstock is brilliant, so I just wanted to give this one an honourable mention because in terms of RWS decks, we all like to see these different variants of them, but look at the colours in that, look at the blues and the purples. So I just wanted to give Pam's Delight a mention as well. And then my final deck to mention, which I was kind of, how can I put it? I was in two minds between this and another, but I mentioned it earlier. But my final deck is a very recent deck, and it's the Black Light Tarot by Tarot Collectibles. And the reason why I was like, oh, is because in January, they released the Groovy Weight, and I love that deck, even more so than the Tripping Weight, which I didn't think would be possible. But then in September, they sent me the tarot sheets of this deck, so I got a first look at them and I showed them on my channel, and I fell in love with them. And then they sent me this deck just a couple of weeks ago. Look at the backs, and I've not been able to stop working with it. During December, I also worked with their Winter Weight, which is a kind of Christmassy themed, wintry themed deck. But I still find, even though I've been using the Winter Weight in the morning, that I'm using this one in the evenings. It's a black light tarot, so if you do have a black light or black lamp, then these really glow under the black light. But even if you don't, these are just wonderful. The colours are incredible. So I'm really loving this deck, and I can't wait for whatever they do next, because they're just phenomenal. Their cardstock that they use is brilliant. They're not flimsy cardstock at all, and they take the RWS images and they just inject so much fun into them, whether they're doing a zombie apocalypse type RWS, or they're doing Christmas, or the 60s and 70s. I want them to do an 80s deck. I think it'll be fun if they did like a 80s. Look at that piece. So yeah, the Black Light Tarot is possibly, well, it is actually, it's my favourite now of all their decks. I really love it. So let me make sure I've got them all here so you can see what my favourite decks are of 2020. I've been putting them here, there and everywhere. What am I missing? The Shimmering Veil. So there you have it. This is my top 5 tarot decks of 2020. What are yours? I'd love to hear. I know I mentioned over 10, but that's just because, you know, I could have mentioned another 5 on top of that, but that's not the rules really. When we do top 5s, we have to be kind of ruthless, don't we? But it doesn't mean we don't love the others as much. But anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know your top 5 decks of 2020 if you have a top 5 decks. And yeah, until next time, go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.